Now let's talk about version control. Version control has to do with tracking the changes to a project, document, or file over time. And it includes the concept of tracking who made that change. As well, it includes the concept of being able to regress or return to an earlier version of the project, file, computer program, etc. Let me diagram that out. Let's look at the development of a recipe. What we have here is a situation where two people are contributing to the creation of a recipe, Bob and Penny. When each of them has made whatever change or addition to the recipe that they want to, they take that change and make it permanent. Let's look at this in time. At the beginning of the process, Bob starts by creating this part of the recipe. Recipe 1, 3 cups of milk. He says, "Okay, good, I'm done with that for now." About an hour later, let's say, Penny comes along and says, "Okay, all right, good, I see what you've done, Bob. Let me continue this work." And she adds in this change. Line 2 about the eggs, line 3 about the sugar. And then a little while later, a day, a week, a month, a year, Bob comes along and says, "Okay, all right, look at this. Well, I realize we're not saying what this recipe is for, so let me add in the word cake. And for whatever reason, Bob really thinks we should list the sugar first and then the eggs." And so he switches these two things. For a variety of reasons that will become quite clear as you're a software developer, but should be relatively intuitive now, it would be a good idea to know at what point in time these changes were made and who made them. For one, if this later edit to switch these two ended up being a complete catastrophe and the cake was an absolute horror because of it, well, they could regress to the earlier version of this and know that they'd fixed the problem. That's one example. So how do you manage all this? You manage this through a version control system. It is a system for managing and controlling versions of documents, files, projects, etc. Here's how that would work. The version control system would take a stamp, if you will, a picture, a snapshot of the exact condition of this recipe file the moment Bob said, "All right, I'm done writing for now." Call it time 1. Later, when Penny came along and made her additions or edits, where she added in the data about the eggs and the sugar, the version control system, a piece of computer software, a computer program, would register the fact when Penny was done, "Oh, she's done. Let me take a snapshot of the file as of now." Now it's got both versions and is keeping track of them. And then a little while later, Bob comes along and does his very odd, but apparently important to him, switch of these two ingredients. And, smart idea, what kind of recipe are we talking about? Adds in the word cake. Again, the version control system takes a snapshot of that. Now, the version control system will have some basic data stored. The version of the file at each point in time, the actual time and date that those changes were made, who made those changes. And you can see all that in any good piece of version control software, all on a screen that lists the different versions, what they look like, what person made the changes. And if you want to, you can do this. You can say, all right, well, right now, the version of the recipe that we have on our website, awesomerecipes.com, is version 3. But we keep getting complaints about the fact that we're putting the sugar in before the eggs. So let's switch to the previous version. And now that version is used, but we don't lose the later edits. That is version control. Now, let's switch it over to the context of, well, you're in a software developer bootcamp. How does this apply? This could be a computer program. In fact, a recipe is essentially a computer program. It is a set series of instructions. We didn't even get to the instructions, but it's a set series of instructions to be done. So think about this. You're writing a computer program, and you're not doing it alone. Bob and Penny are doing the writing this computer program. If you have a piece of software that keeps track of the actual written instructions that make up the computer program, and it keeps track of every single change to those over time, how valuable is that? How valuable is it to know, oh, this change we introduced right here actually broke the website, or broke the computer program, or caused behavior we really don't want. And all you have to do is go, oh, cancel that and revert to the earlier one. And boom, you know you reversed the exact change that was made, rather than having to keep track of it in your head. Most computer programs, by the way, contain hundreds of thousands of lines of code, i.e. individual instructions. There's no way you're going to keep track of all of it, even if you're one person, let alone what if 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 or 20 people are contributing to the actual development of that computer program. Version control software is absolutely vital to modern computer software development. I want to cover a specific computer program, and some of you may have heard of, that brings a few of these concepts together. The program is called SharePoint. It's a computer program published by Microsoft Corporation. SharePoint essentially allows collaboration amongst all the members of a large group on a lot of the common things that people use in companies. Some of the examples are calendars, schedules, documents, employee directories. These are things that are found in most organizations. What if a company had one central place all employees could go to and see the latest version of every one of these things? And what if, in addition to that, they could actually see prior versions? Let's say there's a big project that's being done, and the project definition files are one of the documents that's available inside SharePoint. It might be helpful to see the previous versions of this as it was developed over the history of the project. Those can be stored inside SharePoint. Essentially, that's a form of version control. Same thing with employee directories. What if you actually want to see the previous version from a year ago to see where people were, who worked there, that sort of thing? And it goes with all of these. So SharePoint, at its most simple form, is a large computer software program that allows collaboration for multiple users on elements that often actually need or can utilize a form of version control, and provides a central access and collaboration point for the employees or the users of the software.